I track every single dollar I spent, and so far in 2026, I spent $15,293. Take that, inflation. Everybody wants to know what it takes to retire early, but almost nobody knows the one number that will give them the answer: your spending. I'm here to de-influence you and normalize living well below your means. I'm going to share with you my mid-year money reset with my spending from the last 6 months as someone who is semi-retired living in Austin, Texas. You are not going to believe how much I did and how little I spent doing it. Why, hello, my yellow groupers. I'm Carly, a finance grad and the creator of Best Money Class Ever, where I teach how to pay off debt in 36 months or less, invest to retire a millionaire, and stress less about money. Grab a seat. I'm about to spill the financial tea. Are you ready for it? What does your dream life actually cost you? Where does your money go? Is what you're spending on expenses normal? What does it look like for someone who's really semi-retired with the FIRE movement every single month? If you're curious, this is for you. In today's episode, I'm going to share with you exactly what a mid-year money reset is, why you need to track your spending, especially if you want to reach financial independence and retire early, how to organize and reset your money, my spending breakdown from the last 6 months with my budget and actual, what's changing in my budget for the upcoming 6 months, and my net worth update. I just did a full episode on Baristify, which is where you live off of your investments and part-time income supplements the rest to cover your cost of living. If you're curious what this looks like in practice month by month, we're going to go through all of my spending, and you can track your spending too. You can use the exact spreadsheet that I use. It is linked in the description below. And if you are so tired of overthinking every single money move, feeling behind no matter how much you make, and always wondering if you're doing this money thing right, it is time to ditch analysis paralysis. And you don't need to figure this stuff out on your own. Spend an evening with me live and leave with a plan to pay off your debt within 36 months or less and retire confidently as a millionaire. Take the first class of Best Money Class Ever, and yes, you can try it out completely for free. Get the details and save your spot in the link below. What is a mid-year money reset? It's a personal finance check-in to see what you spent your money on and where you stand right now and what you want going forward. Most people set goals at the new year and then completely forget about them by spring. A mid-year money reset is a chance to refocus, realign. If you want to follow through, then you will absolutely love this process. This will give you a focused seasonal reset to make sure your money is aligned with your values and you're spending on what you want in life. You can course correct before the year slips away, make your big goals feel more attainable by breaking them down, and most importantly, it is a chance to have a fresh start with your money and life. You can see what's working and what needs to be changed. What do you look at with a mid-year money reset? You will look at your income and your expenses from the last 6 months, forecast and modify your income and expenses for the upcoming 6 months, and you will check in on your net worth. Why track your spending, especially if you want to reach financial independence? I totally get it. Looking at your spending feels like nails on chalkboards. Haters gonna hate, but I want you to shake it off. If you want to gain true financial independence, you really need to know what your spending is. Most people think financial independence is about making more money or investing more, but the key part of the formula to reach financial independence is your spending. If you don't know what your spending is, then you are just guessing when you could reach financial independence. I recently did a mini 3-part series on the FIRE movement, which stands for Financial Independence Retire Early. The basic formula and math behind retiring early is the 25 times rule and the 4% withdrawal. The 25 times rule is to save 25 times your annual spending, and that means that you can safely withdraw 4% of your nest egg without depleting the funds. This is why tracking your spending is so important. Think of it this way: every $10,000 additionally that you spend, you will need an additional $250,000 to retire and reach financial independence. Here's the quick math. If your annual spending is $30,000, you would need a nest egg of $750,000. If your annual spending is $40,000, you need $1 million. $50,000, $1.25 million. $60,000, $1.5 million. $70,000, $1.75 million. $80,000, you need $2 million. $90,000, $2.25 million. And if you want to spend $100,000 in your retirement, you would need a nest egg of $2.5 million. There are so many people who spend $100K in a year and they still feel completely broke. They're living paycheck to paycheck, drowning in credit card debt, and they feel like they don't have money to spend on their values like trips or hobbies or even take time off. For me, I have a $30K lifestyle and I feel like I am living it up. Last year, I went on an Australia and New Zealand trip. This year, I'm planning on going to South America, and I have a couple little domestic travel trips. I also go out with friends 2 or 3 times a week and just have a bunch of fun. Your annual spending is not about deprivation. It is about optimization, doing more for less. For example, with my housing, which is arguably one of the most expensive line items on anyone's budget, I spent a lot of time finding the best possible deal. I live in Austin, Texas, about 15 minutes from downtown, and I found an apartment. It was the lowest cost unit in the building in a pretty good neighborhood. And I also found where it was 10 weeks for free. So my prorated discounted rate is $874 a month. Someone who literally lives right across the street in the same high cost of living city could get an apartment for $2,000, for example. In this case, they would spend about $13,500 extra a year on this just one simple line item. That $13,500 in annual expenses would then mean that that person would need a nest egg of $337,500 more just to retire early and experience financial independence. If you want to gain financial independence, start by just simply tracking your spending. You want to know where your money is going to be able to set your big picture goals like retiring early and reaching financial independence. How to organize and reset your money. I believe in becoming chief financial officer and managing your money like a boss. The framework that I use to do a mid-year money reset is financial statements. I freaking love financial statements. They are what the Fortune 500 billion-dollar companies use to manage money, and you can use them as well. I dive deep into the financial statements of Best Money class ever. Here's a quick overview. There are 3 financial statements. You have your income statement, also known in the business world as a P&L or profit and loss. It shows your income and expenses for the month. Obviously, we want you to have a profitable budget that you can automate and have money to spend guilt-free on the things that you want each and every month. Statement of cash flow shows the inflows and outflows in a month. So I like to use your income statement as what you think is going to happen. In other words, your budget. And then your statement of cash flow is what actually happens, where you track your actual income and expenses for the month, and it helps you really stay accountable. And then there is your balance sheet. This is a snapshot of exactly where you stand right now. It shows a lot too. It shows your assets, which is everything that you own, like your savings and investments. I also include your home or car value, total liabilities, which is everything that you owe. So how much you owe on a mortgage, a car loan, student loans, car loans, credit cards, personal loans, payday loans, any kind of loans. Your net worth is your assets minus your liabilities. If you are totally new to tracking your spending and creating a budget, I did show you in detail exactly how to create a budget from scratch with my budget. You can check that out. As a quick refresher, there are 3 parts to every budget. First off, we have, of course, your income. So for most people, your income is exactly the same each and every month. You're paid bi-weekly. Some months you're going to have 2 paychecks, and then occasionally you'll have that bonus 3rd paycheck. If you do have a sales or commission-based job, or you're self-employed or on contract, I do recommend doing what I call a revenue analysis. I did a full video on exactly how to do a revenue analysis. You want to get clear on your income sources with money coming in and how regular or irregular your pay is. Most of everything within your budget is completely known, literally fixed, and 100% in your control. Those are your fixed expenses. There are 6 categories for your fixed expenses: savings, charity, housing, insurance, services, and debt. If, of course, you are semi-retired or work optional, you have reached financial independence and technically you don't need to save or invest. The 3rd part to every budget is the flex expenses. So these vary from month to month, but they're also still pretty predictable based on what is actually going on in your life. There are 7 categories for the flex expenses. First, you have your operating expenses. I'll explain a little bit more in a second. Then you have medical, maintenance, projects, celebration, travel, and fun. In the personal finance world, you'll typically hear about expenses as necessities. I like to call those operating expenses. So these are expenses that you, as CFO and as the human, need to operate and function day to day. These are for your basics like groceries, putting gas in your car, occasional household things and happy hours, eating out. These are also areas that people tend to overspend. As CFO, I actually do personally take out a set amount of cash for these operating expenses. I call this system weekly cash. You may have heard of a cash budgeting system. You'll take out cash and you'll put them in all these different envelopes. Like, here's your haircut cash, here's your eating out, here's your grocery envelope. And I was like, let's just simplify this process. Why don't I take out a set amount of cash, put it in my wallet, and make it last? And these are for, again, my operating expenses. As CFO, the process that I like to do is called an annual review, where you sit down and have a big picture look at everything you want to do for the upcoming year. And typically, if you're new to budgeting, you're like, I have no idea. That's why I look at these flex expenses with the medical, maintenance, projects, celebration, travel, and fun. And you kind of do a massive brain dump on what in the world is going on in your life for this upcoming year that's also going to cost money. I like to think of budgeting as literally just putting a $sign to your to-do list. I did a full video on exactly how to plan your best year yet, and you can check that out for a deep dive. Once you have your annual review, I like to do quarterly reviews where you check in every 3 months as the CFO. The mid-year money reset is technically also a quarterly review where we're going to look though deeper at the last 6 months and then the 6 months going forward. Here's my spending breakdown, my budget versus the actual. Here we have my income statement. Again, your income statement shows your income and expenses in the month. It's also known as P&L or profit and loss statement. Here we have our budget and then also the ideal. I recommend filling this in at least once a year. So for a mid-year money reset, if you haven't filled this in, now is the perfect time to do it. Fill in how things are right now in your budget, and then you'll have an ideal column of what you would like things to be. As CFO, you'll have an executive plan where you can decide line by line what to keep, cut, lower, or increase. You can give yourself a CFO deadline of when you want to make that executive change. We have the savings pre-tax. So if you have a 401k plan or you're contributing to a health savings account with your employer, you'll enter those numbers. You'll then be able to see your paycheck, the categories for the fixed expenses, which would be savings, charity, housing, insurance, services, and your debt repayment. Those are the fixed expenses. Then you have your flex expenses, your operating operating expenses, and then we have your life reinvestment. Again, operating expenses is what you as CFO need to spend. In other words, necessities. Personally, I take out $120 cash on my Fridays because I spend less on the little things. I have more money to spend on the big ticket items like trips and adventures throughout the year. Here I have a P&L summary. This is a profit and loss summary. Total income, fixed expenses, total operating expenses, and the net income is fixed minus your operating. You do want to create a budget that is profitable and have at least a net income of $500 because there's going to be things that come up that vary from month to month. I call those your life reinvestments. So some months you will actually reinvest or spend guilt-free. Other months you won't spend that because you have a bigger ticket item in future months. For example, in a business, you'd have your net income and then the business could keep the profit within the business. That would be the retained earnings, or you could decide to spend that month and reinvest in the business on something like a new employee or a warehouse, updating your website. Here is my January budget versus actual spending. January budget again is on the income statement. We started the year with $2,400 in my bank account, and then the paycheck was going to be $2,500. I anticipated the regulars again were forecasted here: housing, insurance, services, and I don't have any debt. Plus my operating expenses. I have these watery dry eye issues. I was going to see an eye doctor. I thought it was going to be about $85, and then supplements I needed to get for about $30. For maintenance, I didn't have anything in January. For projects, I wanted to, again, I actually have these dry eyes. I also had seen an allergist. I'm allergic to everything, specifically dust mites. Budgeted to do $125 for hypoallergenic sheets and pillowcases. I also wanted to get a TV because your girl was TV free living in an RV. I had a lot of birthdays for my friends in January, but I didn't allocate any extra additional costs for birthday presents or gifts. I didn't have any travel plan for January. For fun, I wanted to find sports meetups groups for free. That was the budget. And then the statement of cash flow shows the actual inflows and outflows in a month. I entered everything in line by line and then categorized those transactions. I have an annual budget summary, the monthly budget versus monthly actual, the annual budget, which is the total in each of the categories, and the year-to-date actual, which is what has accumulated for the year. My total expenses I thought were going to be about $23.79. My actual expenses were $26.96. What was different? My health insurance, for some reason, was charged twice. Last year, I didn't have a December charge. Medical, I spent $118. I thought that the eye doctor visit was going to be an $85 copay. Instead, it was actually $90. So that was like a random difference. I anticipated getting the sheets for hyperallergenic for $125, and it was $125.52. Let's take a look at my operating expenses week by week without weekly cash. The total for the operating expenses in January, I spent $219.38 on groceries for the month, $75 in gas, $160.20 on food and drinks out, and $142 on miscellaneous other. Here is my February budget and actual spending. For February, the extras, eye doctor again, I thought it'd be $85. I had a dermatologist procedure for $350. I wanted to upgrade kitchen stuff, get some more plates and mugs since I have a larger space from the RV. I didn't get the actual TV in January, so I was like, okay, maybe in February I'll do this. For Valentine's Day, I like to celebrate, so my tradition is to make myself a steak dinner, get a massage, get myself chocolate and flowers. I allocated $100 extra for that. I also allocated $45 for a dinner group. My actual expenses, I ended up spending, instead of the $350 with the dermatologist, I spent $356. I thought I was going to spend about $2,800 that month. I ended up spending $2,410 in February. I ended up getting a credit on my insurance, so it was $317.81, $102.88 on my services. Changed my gym. The gym membership was $37.88. There was an annual fee of $64.94. That actually didn't incur that month. That was the following month. For my projects, I ended up not getting that TV or upgrading my plates and mugs. I just didn't get around to it, so I spent less in that category. All in all, again, February, I spent $2,410. For my weekly cash and operating expenses, this is the week by week breakdown. We did a fun, amazing Valentine's Day party. I did a Target trip. We actually had a white elephant and exchanged gifts. I got a Valentine's Day wreath. This month, I ended up having some crazy pain where I woke up and I couldn't walk. I had to go to my gynecologist because I literally couldn't walk. I have endometriosis. That's something that I was not expecting to flare up this year. Wasn't really on the radar. I thought everything was under control. For my weekly cash that month, I spent $170.37 on groceries, $55 on gas, $143 on food and drinks out, and $101.58 on other miscellaneous. Here's my March budget versus the actual spending. For March, the extras I anticipated, I thought I was going to get my toll tag for $50, do an oil change for $50. I did do a Renaissance fair for my celebrations. It was a friend's birthday. The ticket was $33. For travel, I had a friend's wedding coming up in Wisconsin. I estimated at the beginning of the year would be $320. For fun, decided to join a pickleball league. My cash flow shows the actual inflows and outflows. Here is the monthly actual totals. For charity, I did $42 for a book donation. My housing was $1,048. Insurance was $359. Services was $167. This month was higher than I thought because this is the month my gym annual fee ended up coming in. I had my $480 or $120 a week for weekly cash. For travel, I ended up doing something completely different. I did a day trip in Chicago beforehand. Instead of spending $320 on the flight, I ended up spending $127.96 round trip. It was way cheaper to go into Chicago. For fun, I ended up doing the Renaissance fair, which ended up being $33.48. The total for my living expenses in March was $2,217. I have my operating expenses week by week. I spent $151 on groceries, $80 on gas, $123 on food and drink out, and $140 on other. Here's my April budget versus actual spending. I anticipated the extras. I would do an eye doctor follow-up for $85. I thought I was going to do my brake pad and rotors for $800 for my maintenance. I didn't have any project expenses. For celebrations, I like to do it up big, so I wanted to plan an adult Easter egg hunt. I estimated spending $75 extra on that. I had my aunt's birthday. I was going to spend something small, like $25. A friend's wedding gift. I thought I was going to do $50. I also anticipated purchasing a flight to go to Pittsburgh for the 4th of July. I thought I was going to spend about $350 on that. I didn't anticipate having any extra fun expenses. The statement of cash flow shows my actual inflows and outflows. My housing was $1,041 with electricity. My insurance was $359.48. My services was $102.88. $600 for weekly cash because there were 5 weeks. For medical, I ended up doing $56. That was for a dermatologist follow-up. For maintenance, I ended up doing my oil change. It was a synthetic oil change, so it ended up being a little bit more. It was $109.38. I had anticipated doing my brake pad and rotors, but decided to hold off and wait a little bit longer. For celebrations, I ended up spending $319.60. I had the adult Easter egg hunt. The wedding gift, I decided to do more than $50. I ended up doing $100 and there was a fee, so that was $103.50. Mother's Day, $100 extra cash allocated for that. In April, I did not anticipate this exactly, but I ended up paying in advance for the hotels 2 nights in Milwaukee, and I spent $160. I spent $99.52 on my Chicago hotel. I ended up booking out an architecture riverboat tour for $39. I also booked the train. It was $28 each way from Chicago to Milwaukee. Here are my operating expenses week by week. You can see 1 week I had an adult Easter egg hunt. I ended up taking out extra cash and literally put liquor in the Easter eggs, and then also did actual cash and extra candy. I ended up spending in total for the month of April $103.74 on groceries, $115 on gas, $116.80 on food and drink out, and $143 $46.97 on other. Here's my May budget and my actual spending. For May, the extras I anticipated were a Cinco de Mayo party. I allocated $50 extra for that, $50 extra on Mother's Day. I actually ended up celebrating the month before. I wanted to do a South America trip. I didn't really have a plan this year of what exact country. I estimated at the beginning of the year I'd spend about $375 and get the flights in May. Also estimated this month I would get the hotel for the wedding and spend about $250, $85 for Uber on the actual trip. I also wanted to do for fun float the river, which is my favorite thing in Texas. The statement of cash flow shows the actual inflows and outflows. As you can see here, a couple things changed for the toll tag. I ended up doing it this month. I ended up getting an observation deck, which was like an excursion for the trip. I had a lot of Ubers and Lyfts transactions. I ended up taking out an extra $80, got a haircut, some household trays, pictures, a cake pan for my Cinco de Mayo party. I ended up not actually doing the flight to South America. $1,026 on housing with electricity and utilities, $359 on insurance, $102.88 on services, $460 on weekly cash, $20.85 on maintenance, which was the toll tag. For celebrations, that was $79.64. That was the Cinco de Mayo extra grocery trip. For travel, I did $190.23, which was the spending on the actual trip, mostly the Ubers. Sightseeing for fun, I did $92.99. In Austin, I went to Cidercade, which is an arcade, and they were cashless, so that was $12.99. This year, I wanted to slowly kind of build up household items. My operating expenses for the week. For traveling, I typically do a lot of my travel extra expenses as additional cost. And during the week itself, I do use cash for some of the day-to-day spending on the trip. For example, this week I didn't actually get the groceries because I was out and about, but I did spend a lot on food, pizza, got a martini, a hot dog, of course, Italian sub, some cheese curds in Wisconsin, and I did the public market in Milwaukee. For my operating expenses that month, the breakdown was I spent $131.81 on groceries, $55 on gas, $170.19 on food and drink out, and $109 on other. Here is my June budget and actual spending. For June, the extras I anticipated were car registration, which is $78.25 for my maintenance. I didn't anticipate having medical extra. No projects. For celebrations, there's my mom's birthday and then also Father's Day. I anticipated spending about $45 extra for gas money to drive home to Fort Worth to see them and celebrate. For fun, I allocated $150 extra for a summer wardrobe update. You can see on the cash flow my actual inflows and spending for that month. The totals in the categories were about the same. On my housing, $1,062 with utilities. On insurance, I spent $353.05. My car insurance had gone down a few dollars. My services was $102.88. Weekly cash, I spent $480. Maintenance, I ended up spending $379. And this month, there were some things that happened that I had no idea were going to happen. My car actually got broken into, which was so unfortunate. I got my bike stolen. I do have car insurance with a $500 deductible. I got quotes and ended up finding a better deal and paid out of pocket. I spent $290 on the windshield repair. I ended up finding a really good deal on a replacement bike. I got my bike at a nonprofit. People give their bikes, they fix them up, and then you just can pick any bike for a simple $100 donation. Total for the maintenance was $379.75. For celebrations, I ended up getting a birthday present for $37.88. And for fun, I spent $277.31. I did $160 extra for a summer wardrobe update. I also had an app purchase and a few other small things. For my operating expenses, the total I spent this month was $191.96 on groceries, $80 on gas, $109.79 on food and drinks out, and $163.77 on miscellaneous other. Here are my year-to-date actuals for the last 6 months and how much I spent in each of the categories. I spent $42 on charity, $6,246 on my housing, including utilities, $2,458 on my insurance, $682 on my services. For debt, I spent $0. For weekly cash, I spent $3,100. For medical, I spent $530. For maintenance, $509.98. Projects, $90. Celebrations, $563. And travel, $672.98. And fun, $439, bringing my total cost of living for the last half of the year to $15,293. On average, for my groceries, I've spent $37.24 each week, which is crazy. If you're like, girl, how in the world are you doing that? Are you living off of cat litter? Are you eating? Like, what is going on? You can check out, I did a full video on a grocery haul. I take you from start to finish exactly how I plan my meals, the grocery list, and then I take you with me to the grocery store, buy the items. I'll even meal prep and show you the final meals that I made. Make sure and check that out. If you've been meaning to save thousands on groceries, you can, and I will show you exactly how. The next 6 months, here's what's going to change. Let's talk first about my income and then also the expenses. The income, the goal was to reach up to $5,000 take home pay. That's not quite happening. And of course I was disappointed and like, this is not what I wanted. I, however, am going to just simply be okay. Last video, I explained my Barista-Fi numbers and the fact that I only actually really need to earn $9,400 and my investments can cover the difference. I am just going to be okay if this is a Barista-Fi year. And I'll show you what that has looked like with my balance sheet, how my savings and investments have actually even gone up, even though I'm spending some of my savings. I'll just be okay with a Barista-Fi where I'm earning part-time and then living part-time off of my savings. The second thing with my expenses, a few things are changing along with my life. First off is going to be my health. For medical, I have just honestly not been feeling the greatest. I've mentioned I've had dry eyes, itchy eyes, all the things with allergies. I saw an eye doctor and went about 5 or 6 times. I'm super grateful. For some reason, they only charged me that one copay the first time and then the follow-ups were just free. I'm like, okay, that was awesome. But the problem is not solved. I got referred to a dry eye specialist. The dry eye specialist is $250 for an evaluation, which at this point, if your eyes are just like watering all the time, it's so annoying. I think that would be worth it. I'm going to do a price check to see if there are other alternative places that are specialists, but for me, I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And then the follow-ups with that will be $145. I didn't have as many follow-up costs the first 6 months. For some reason, they didn't charge me, but going forward, I'll have those costs. The other thing with my health that's going to kind of been changing, and I really didn't expect it, was I don't feel that great. I have done a lot of tests with my blood work to check all the levels, the B12, the D, the iron, all the things. Cortisol is the one thing that came back that was actually pretty high. I do officially have endometriosis. I've had 3 surgeries in the past, and my pain has just kind of escalated. There was that one day that I like literally couldn't walk. Inflammation, just something stirred up in me that was so painful. And it's not that that pain level every day, but there is kind of like a baseline of like, I just don't feel the greatest. And that is actually all the pain in my body, I think, is just spiking my cortisol because my body's just like, this doesn't feel great. This doesn't feel great. I might go ahead and just do my 4th endometriosis surgery. I'm not sure if I'm going to do that this year or wait till early next year. We'll kind of have to wait and see. When it comes to maintenance, I had anticipated doing my brake and rotor the first half of this year, but it got kind of busy. So I'm actually going to plan on doing that later this year. With my projects, there are a few things, like I still haven't gotten around to buying a TV, which is kind of funny. I do stream, but I just stream from my laptop. And the reason why I haven't gotten my TV and a couple of the household things is because I know that I'm actually going to be moving. I live full time in an RV for 6 years. This is the first apartment I've had in a while and I like it, but I have a stomper upstairs, which just drives me crazy. I'm going to go ahead and move. Plus, it is a renter's market, which means I can go and find a good deal and then get 10 more weeks for free. Estimating it's going to cost about $300 for movers, maybe another 100 or two for an application deposit. In the end, I'll get a lower cost apartment without the stompers and save thousands for the upcoming year. Nothing's really changing for the celebrations. Travel, one thing that did shift is I was going to do a Pittsburgh trip this July. I've decided to push that back to September for Labor Day. I also do still plan on doing a South America trip. I have not really booked any of it, which I had anticipated at least getting the flight or something by now. I haven't gotten the flight. Those expenses will be taking place in the next couple of months for fun. I did really want to do a pickleball league, but I got booted out or refunded, so I do plan on doing that. I also had planned on doing a concert this year. Didn't do that, so I hopefully will do that for the next 6 months at some point. And lastly, let's do my net worth update. At the end of each quarter, I do like to check in on the current value of my investments. This is where the semi-retirement part came in. As I explained in the last video, with a barista fire, simply the tactic is you would withdraw a set amount into a high yield savings account, and then you would transfer over and pay yourself a set amount each month. This was actually nothing I had withdrawn. This was simply money already in a high yield savings account. I started the year off with about $20,000 in that account. It does definitely feel really weird to spend your money after you've been having this mindset to save, invest. Like, is it okay? This literally shows that it is okay. At least this year it was. In the future years, I can adjust and modify the plan. For my net worth, I had just under $2,000 in my personal bank account. So I started off with $19,985, and then I transferred over partially from my business and then also partially from this account. The amounts varied from month to month. Right now, that fund has $9,200 between my 401k plan, IRA, brokerage, and other investment accounts. I have $576,746 invested. Some people do not include their car on their balance sheet, but I do think it is part of your net worth, especially if you're including real estate. Why not also include your car? Of course, with cars, the asset is depreciating, so the value does go down. This quarter, I decided to drop the value of my car by $1,000 to reflect that change. Started the year off, I estimated my car was worth about $13,500. Now we're estimating it's about $12,500. I have $641 in my business account, bringing my net worth to an all-time high of $601,028. You can see on average, I have spent $1,666 from my savings with the Baristify, and then I've had my part-time income from this business to pay for the rest. Even though I'm technically spending, I am seeing my net worth is increasing, which is mind-blowing. That is my mid-year money reset. There are a lot of things that I had for this year, and most of the things that I've wanted have been coming true. I've been having a lot of fun with celebrations. I really wanted to do my adult Easter egg hunt party and then decorate Easter eggs and have a Cinco de Mayo party. I've been doing all the fun things and really enjoying life. I did Chicago and Milwaukee. I live in an apartment in Austin, Texas with more space, less maintenance, less stress. All in all, things have been really great, and I've been spending pretty much on pace. There are a few things that I thought I'd buy right now. Haven't quite bought it yet, like my TV or my trip to South America, but it's coming soon. I did not anticipate feeling the physical feeling that I have, but I think I'll be okay. Hopefully I'll get the surgery within the next 6 months to a year and feel a little bit better. And hopefully I'll figure out my eye situation. The biggest thing is I did not anticipate this being a Baristify year. As I literally look at the numbers, I'm like, wow, this stuff actually works. You can actually be semi-retired. You can actually spend guilt-free on whatever you want and create a life that you love. Is my life perfect? Absolutely not. There are a lot of moving pieces. It's a journey. It's a process. I fully believe when you have a plan with money, you can do more of the things that you love. If you're like, dang, how did she only spend $15,293 and it's like the year 2026? What is she doing? There's definitely an art and a science with being good with money and still enjoying life and spending guilt-free on what you want. And it's hard. Most people never find the balance. Well, there's a lot to it. So I teach how to save on your housing, your cars, how to negotiate, how to find legit deals, and how to do a lot for way less. It is so important. And that's why in Best Money Class Ever, I teach how to do it. I want you to try having a mid-year money reset. It's a chance to pause, take a look at what's going on in your life, see what happened in the past, what's going to happen in the future, and come up with a plan. Take your power back with money. Money does not have to rule you. You can become that CFO. Again, if you're looking for a framework, you can grab the financial day planner spreadsheet. There are many classes to help you every step along the way. And if you're like, oh, I'm so tired of doing this on my own, I want a human. Chat ain't working, right? You're just down these rabbit holes. You need someone to help you in the trenches. Well, hey, that's exactly what Best Money Class Ever is for. I would love to work with you in a small group. So again, you can join me live and take the first class of Best Money Class Ever for free. So why not? Come say hi to me in real life. I am really curious and I would love to hear from you. Do you do a mid-year money reset? Do you check in on your finances? Has everything gone as you thought they would for the year? Are you on track with your financial goals, your debt payoff? Let me know. Spill your financial tea if you are watching on YouTube or listening on Spotify. Thank you so much, my yellow groupers, for listening. Every show has a dope name that they are calling their listeners. I'm calling you my yellow groupers. We have slow starts. We get off track. We get behind. We get knocked down. Life does not go as planned. The cards are stacked against us. The hands we are dealt are not ideal, but we don't ever give up. That is where our grit is born. Our trials, our adversities, that is what makes us stronger. Did you like this episode? If so, make sure to like it and subscribe and share it with your friends who geek out over personal finance. If you are listening on Apple or Spotify, make sure and follow and leave me a review. If you've been meaning to get your finances in order, now is the time, and this is the best place to start. Here, you'll overcome analysis paralysis with the finance plan. This is the roadmap that you've been looking for to pay off debt and invest, even if you have no idea where to start and you're living paycheck to paycheck. Are you tired of figuring this money stuff out on your own? You don't need to spend a lifetime stressed about money. You can turn things around in a month, and I will show you exactly how. Best Money Class Ever, my live and virtual personal finance class, starts soon. Think of me as your personal finance consultant to help you get the results that you want. Want in? You can take the intro to class for free. Head on over to bestmoneyclassever.com or the link below to save your spot. You'll instantly get a free 20-page downloadable guide to start the finance plan. As always, remember, you only live once. Be smart with your money now. I will catch you later. Bye.